Hi, Mr. Castelli. For my marriage project, I'm going to be interviewing my parents. This is my dad, Michael Miller, and mom, Anna Miller. We all live in Rockville Center together, and they both grew up in New York. So, what's your anniversary date?
July 30th.
Okay. But you usually don't celebrate it then.
No, because your sister, our middle daughter, was born on that day. So we decided to celebrate our first date, which is October 17th,
Okay. And how long have you guys been married? So, what year were you married?
2005.
2005. And that's how many?
20.
Oh gosh. 20. That's 20 years on the dot.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. How old were you two when you met each other? Like, how did you meet each other?
A friend of mine invited me out after I was going to class, and I met my friend, and he had a couple of other friends there, and one of the girls there had said that she had a really nice friend, and I said, "Oh, I'm sure she is," and she invited me to her birthday party the following week, and so I was downtown with some other friends, and I said, "I'm going to stop by this party that this girl's having," and I went to the party, and I met your mom.
And we hit it off right away.
And how did you get to the party?
I went to the party. This is a longtime friend of mine. We always get together on her birthday. So I had gone with a number of other friends. And funny enough, she changed the date of the party because Michael wasn't free on, I think her birthday was on a Wednesday, and Michael wasn't free that Wednesday. He had class.
Yep.
So she pushed it to Thursday, which was not a big deal for any of us. And then, but I didn't know that she was inviting someone to meet me because she knows that I would not like but she knows me too well, and we hit it off, and that's how we met.
How old were you two when you both met?
I was 30, 34, 35.
34, 35.
And
Mom?
you were what, 27?
Yeah, 27.
Alright. How was your engagement? So how long did you guys date before you got engaged? And how was the engagement?
We dated for about 3 years, and I told your mother we were flying to Georgia to see my godson, and then I surprised her at the airport, and we got on a plane to go to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And while down in Puerto Rico, I had rented a bungalow on the beach, and I proposed to her on the balcony down in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that was nice. It was beautiful.
Were you shocked by the surprise?
I was very surprised, actually.
Do you like surprises? Like, is that something that you were okay with?
Yeah, it was, because I didn't want to be involved in the picking out of the ring. Like, I really wanted him to choose all of those elements because I thought it made it just more personal. I didn't want to dictate the ring, the location, how. I wanted him to have that, and it to be a surprise.
I like that it worked out for both of you. How important were like similar values, like educational, religion, like where you grew up? Like, how important was finding that in someone? Because you both have very similar backgrounds in terms of religion, where you grew up, educational. You both go for higher degrees. Like, what?
It was definitely important to me, just because that there was kind of a mutual understanding of how I was raised and my values, and an expectation of a partner that I was going to have children with, where the, kind of not necessarily similar backgrounds, but similar values, raised within the Catholic Church, raised with those values, raised with similar backgrounds, that it wasn't, that there was just a lot of understanding and appreciation of each other's parents, where their parents came from, and there was just an understanding, a better understanding there.
You can't get married without having a shared value system.
Mm-hmm.
You can, but it's going to be a rough road, because there's going to be challenges, there's going to be tough times, and you need to be able to lean on that value system to know you agree, 70% of the time, knowing as a value choice, and then the others you can work out. But if you're not aligned on that 70% of what you in your core think of, it makes things really tough.
That's what we were saying in class about how the Catholic Church is fine with people getting from different religions getting married, but when you go to the church to get your marriage like reviewed, they make sure to acknowledge. They say, "Are you aware that this is going to be like a tougher, like you have to really make sure that you are comfortable with each other because your core religions are just different."
And we had all those conversations. Do you want children? How many children do you want? How do you feel about certain kind of like topics? Again, like Dad said, like there's going to be challenging moments and tough decisions through your relationship. If you don't have that foundation of understanding and like belief system, it can make those times very tough.
And also, it was easy for me when I met your grandfather. I immediately knew, okay, this is a girl I can marry, just because of who he was. So I knew if this is the man who raised her, I knew I could really bank on it. I have a really good shot here of a solid marriage.
How was that, talking about that one, just a question I have, how was that asking Grandpa, because you asked him, right?
I did, of course.
For the engagement. So how did he react to that, and how was that?
So I had asked him at his house. Your mother and I went over to visit him, and she went upstairs, and I sat down and I said, "Jim, I would like to marry Anna, but I want your blessing." And he said, "Absolutely, you have my blessing. You're going to have beautiful kids." And
There
so-
you are.
Hey, you know what? Happy to come through. What was your reality of marriage, and did it differ? What was your expectation of marriage, and how did that differ from like the reality, or was there any difference?
I don't know that I guess I don't think. I guess we had made that, we had come to that decision. That's what we wanted to do. We had come to the decision that we wanted to get married, wanted to build a life together and have children together. Like that was the commitment, and I don't like it is what I expected, I guess, because the core of who we are as a couple and what we're building, the family that we've built and the life that we've built together, was always under that mutual understanding of that's what we wanted together. So I don't know, it's kind of a
I think we were
tricky
older too, so I think we were mature enough to have lived our own
Yes.
life.
You always say
And
that's very important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, once I decided in my own head that I wanted to marry your mother, this was, I was just comfortable with it. It wasn't risky. I just felt like this is a good decision. She's a good woman. This is a woman I could trust with my kids, and someone who I'd want to build a life with. And once I had that in my heart, that I could feel that, then the marriage and the commitment, none of that really was as impactful as the moment in my heart to say, I'm committed to this woman, and that's it. So it was kind of like a beforehand. Even before I was married, I had that commitment in my heart to say, I'm with her. And then the marriage transition really wasn't that big of a deal for me.
I guess because you had all those conversations too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to ask the one question that I think everyone asks married couples. What is the key to a happy marriage? Do you have like a certain quote in mind, like a certain something in mind, or is that really open-ended and it's a bit more difficult?
I will say this. It's empathy and forgiveness. You can't keep score.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three things. Because it's a long life, hopefully, together. You're going to mess up. Your spouse is going to mess up. I mess up more. But you have to realize that it's but it's really not about keeping score, because if you trust the other person, they're doing a lot of things you don't see. And they're taking on a lot of things that you may not understand. But if you trust each other, the key is that you're not keeping score. Well, I did this and you do that and this and that. It's just that you both go in with a lot of faith that you're both doing the best you can. And there'll be times when you're banging heads, but in your heart, if you know this person's doing everything that they can for me and the family, that's really what it's about. If you start keeping score, or you start questioning that trust, and I think it starts to unravel, because it's tough. Life is tough.
Yeah.
life has, curveballs that you don't expect. It makes really difficult things that you got to get through together. And if you have the trust, then that to me is what makes everything else bearable. I know whatever happens, I can trust your mom, because I know I don't have to question if she's going to be there. Because of that makes the marriage work. If I ever had a doubt, I think that makes marriage very, very tough.
Yeah, I think, going back to your question before, with like the expectations of marriage, and I think sometimes people go into it thinking things should be equal, and things are never equal.
Mhm.
But sometimes he is pulling more of the rope, and sometimes I am pulling more of the rope. But just like Dad says, you can't keep score.
I was going to say that
when
goes
that
hand in
is.
hand with also keeping score.
Yeah, you can't keep score, because on times where I am struggling just as an individual person, then with just busy life, and just everybody has things that are challenging for them. You can't think like, well, he's not doing enough, or vice versa, because there are many times where he's doing a lot more than I am doing, and it's that keeping score, I think, is just really
How did children affect your marriage in terms of like, did your communication lessen, or did it grow? Did you have to make more decisions, or what were those decisions talked about beforehand?
I think foundationally, like we wanted to raise our kids in the Catholic Church. We want that was important. We wanted to get them baptized, communion, go through. That was kind of like a foundational, and then as far as education, where where they were going to go to school. But I think we've just always come to every decision that we have had to do with the kids as like together. We talk about everything, and we agree about everything. And if maybe sometimes I'm doing a little more research on something, and I say I feel a little strongly about something, and Dad will he can feel that, and it's kind of like he said, I'll defer to you if you feel strongly about that, or vice versa. If something is important to him, you guys not getting your ears pierced at an early age. I choose my battles. Then you didn't get your ears pierced at an early age.
Some kids are doing it when they were right born. Like just when they were born, they were bringing their babies to class.
And that's
that's fine. That's a decision.
And I would have been comfortable making it an earlier decision. Dad wasn't, but that's a silly example, and I'm making light.
And I still don't get my ears pierced.
But it's every
I'm able to,
decision we try, we kind of come to it together. And if someone feels more stronger than the other,
and it's also, we had conversations about, what if the baby's sick? How are we going to handle that? And you have those conversations. So for us, I think what was really important, first off, when you're a new parent, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know anything about raising kids. You could be around kids, you could have nieces and nephews, you could babysit. It's nothing compared to being a parent. So you're going to have that shock alone. But what we had was pretty, honest conversations about, well, what if the baby's sick? What if the baby is, challenged, and you have all these other stressors? And we had our own decisions on, the baby's going to come into our life, and we're going to manage it, and we're going to deal. And the difference was, we had lived our life, because we were a little older. We were committed to, the kids are going to come first, and we're going to make sure that everything that we build is about building them and giving them the foundation. And that really made the raising of the kids pretty easy. Not easy, but it was an easy decision of, the baby comes first, the kids come first. What do the kids need? And then we'll talk about what we need.
That's really sweet, because that's a sacrifice you got to make, and that's a sacrifice I think you guys were ready for.
But
and
we asked God for children.
Yeah.
And God gave us children. So we knew that going in.
That's what we wanted.
We wanted, and we knew the responsibility with that. So when the kids come, and now as you get older, and you guys are getting older, then we have to kind of step back and take care of ourselves too, because you can't take care of kids unless you're taken care of. But when, you're starting a family, it's about, can you commit everything you can to the kids, and you're going to work how many jobs you need to work. You're going to make sure that they have stuff first, and if simple things like, well, I can't get that right now. No, because the kids need this, so let's make sure the kids have it. she had that inherently in her because her dad and mom gave it, and my parents did the same thing for me. So we were similar there. That it was about you ask for kids and God gives them to you. Then
You do all you can to take care of them.
That's right.
That's very sweet. What advice would you give to a teenager who is thinking about getting married? Like, at what age do you think is like, that's way too early? Because you talk about being able to live your life, and I feel like you can. Some people, they want to get those experiences quickly. Other people, they want to get those experiences longer. Like how, or like if I were saying 17 years old, like if I were like,
Absolutely not. I think your focus should be your education,
Yeah.
and then after you get educated, so after college,
I'd say that
you need to. My suggestion would be to secure your education so you are in the position to build a life with someone.
it's going back to, can you take care of a family? And if you're 17 years old, it's very difficult to
Yeah.
truly take care of a family.
Yeah.
And you don't have, it's not that you're not smart enough, it's that you don't have enough life experience. I have friends who were married at 18 and 19 and 20, and some of them struggled and some of them made it through. But I can't say what's best for anyone, but if it was you, the advice that I would give you is get married later so that you can come to the marriage with more to give. Educated, better life experience, better perspective. Come into a marriage where you really understand your value system and you understand what you're about. That, I think, is what you bring to a marriage. When you're 17 and 18, I think that's really tough
yeah,
to be able to bring enough and deal with kids. Because once you have kids, just like we said about it, once you have kids,
they're the priority.
You have to be very selfless.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
I
And
think
it's
you have to
hard
do
at
a
a
very
young
good job of
age to
that.
be selfless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't see myself in that position. Like I feel like a lot of the things you guys do and the way that you guys prioritize the three of us is right selfless, and I'm like I guess it's as you grow, because like I look at you guys and I'm like I don't think I could ever do that.
But we had our life.
Yeah.
We were both post-college,
Postgraduate school.
living in Manhattan. Like I
Travel, we had all of it.
I don't regret that I didn't have
Something.
a fulfilling life. So I brought all of me to my
Yes.
marriage and didn't feel that I was somehow
Missing out.
Yeah.
Oh, then not for a teenager, but how about for a couple who is experiencing marital difficulties? Like, if someone is thinking, like, I'm not happy in this marriage and I want to get a divorce, what would you say to try to prevent that divorce from happening? Like, what help could you give to them? Like, or advice you would give to them to help?
Just perspective that we all go, every marriage, every life.
Mm.
If you weren't married, you're going to have tough times
Yeah.
in life. It just sometimes when you're around someone and you're sharing a life, you can sometimes blame them, or there may be other problems in the marriage, infidelity
Yeah.
or drug use or something else. That's a
In the
different
extreme,
conversation.
yeah.
But if it's just a couple that is struggling and they're having a tough time, and the person was asking me, I would just share that, hey, we all have those moments, and sometimes it is our fault and we can't see it, and sometimes it's theirs, sometimes it's 50-50. But I would just try to bring a perspective that sometimes when you're in it, you feel like you're the only one and that it's just happening to you. But, you will have ups and downs in a marriage just like you will in life. So that's the only perspective that I would try to give to a couple struggling is, it may be rough today, but we've all been through it.
Like,
And-
ride the wave.
Just ride the wave, give it a chance, and give yourself a little bit of breathing room and a little bit of forgiveness, like we spoke about.
Yeah.
If it's not something that's toxic like an infidelity or something, then you can usually a little bit of space. Hopefully they can find forgiveness and get back to what brought them together in the first place.
I think I only have one. Yeah. Actually, I only have 30 seconds left.
That's okay.
Okay.
Quickly.
Do you know- okay,
What
quickly.
Was your last question?
Looking back, if you could do anything differently, what would you do? Or would you do anything differently if you could?
I think we've said it. We would have traveled more.
We would have traveled more before we had kids.
Yes.
Travel more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you got after me, Conrad and Lena all grow up. So you got all that time. Well, I literally have 10 seconds left. Well, thank you, Mr. Caselli. These are my two parents.
Thank you.
Have a nice Easter break.